Hi, this is Cassie. Our first question for our group project was, how many hours on average do PSU students study each week? Our claim was that the majority of students studied less than 6 hours a week. We used a random sample of 88 students from our Stat 244 class to collect our data. Our claim is in the null hypothesis. We used a t-test to find the test statistic of 5.799. This is a right-tailed test. The critical value is equal to 1.6729, and as you can see, our test statistic is in the critical region. We reject the null hypothesis. Apparently, the average student studies more than 6 hours a week.
Hey, this is Tanner. Our second question on the survey to those same 88 stats students was whether they live on campus or commute. We use this to test our second question and as a basis for our final question, which you'll hear about in a second. On the PDX EDU website, the college states that campus has capacity for 10% of students. So we use this to test against our findings and our claim that Stats 244 has a greater proportion of residents than the rest of campus. Our null hypothesis is that the proportion is equal to 10%, and the alternative is that the proportion is greater than 10%. This is our claim. This is a right-tailed z-test with alpha equal to 0.05. As you can see, we do not reject null because the test statistic is not in the critical tip. With the same alpha and hypotheses, we can also test this using a confidence interval. We find that 0.10, 10%, is within the confidence interval range of 0.08 to 0.2, and therefore we do not reject the null. After both of our tests confirming the same result, we have found that there is insufficient evidence to support the claim that Stat 244 has a higher proportion of resident students than PSU as a whole.
Hello friends, my name is Win, and for this section we will test the claim that TriMet's proportion is inflated. First, we make a hypothesis. The null is equal or more than 40% and the alternative is less than 40%. After you've completed the hypothesis, it's time to plug in the values to find the critical value and the test value to see whether or not to reject or not reject the null. So, in conclusion, we will not reject HO because there is insufficient evidence that the proportion is inflated.
We also asked those same 88 students how often they were late to class each quarter. Our claim was that resident students were late more often than commuter students. Our claim is an alternative hypothesis where mu sub 1 is equal to PSU residents and mu sub 2 is equal to commuter students.